Welcome to the Idea to Value podcast, where in every episode we highlight the latest insights into creativity and innovation from experts around the world. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn. I care about the evidence behind what makes ideas happen, and I've already helped thousands of people just like you through my unique insights into recent scientific findings of how creativity works. I also show you how to turbocharge innovation programs so they finally deliver on the value and ideas you've been struggling to execute. Get your free training on how creativity can be improved by registering now at www.ideatovalue.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Idea to Value podcast. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn, and I'm thrilled to have with us today Iain Bitran. He is the Executive Director for ISPIM, the International Society for Professional Innovation Managers. So for anyone who's focused on innovation management, this is the group to be speaking to. Iain, it's wonderful having you with us.
It's great to be here. Looking forward to seeing you virtually.
Absolutely. So for people who don't know about ISPIM, what exactly is this organization?
So we're essentially a community of anyone who's passionate about managing innovation. So whether you come from a research background, from industry, you're a consultant, a policymaker, basically if you're an innovation management professional or you're interested in that topic, we are a community that takes care of all aspects of this interesting topic, and it's a very broad topic as well, as you can imagine. So what we like to do is we like to be able to share knowledge and experiences between all the different types of people that we have as part of our network.
And what sort of people are those? Are they mainly management professionals? Are they design thinkers? What are the members like?
It's about as broad brush as you can get. So anything from PhD students who are, researching the latest, theoretical ideas about innovation management, through to real practitioners, so people who are practicing innovation management in the field, whether they come from large companies, small companies, also from government and public sector.
And what's been your journey as part of the organization?
My journey. So actually, I come from originally a marketing background, but was also involved in developing business modeling software. At a time, probably a little bit early to market at the time, but one of the things that we had to do, obviously, with the software, we were sort of doing quite a lot of modeling for EU-funded projects, was to do dissemination work, and what we ended up doing is picking a number of different organisations that we felt comfortable talking to and dealing with. One of those was ISPIM, and so I think I joined back in 1997. And really enjoyed being part of the ISPIM family. And the time we got to, I think, 2001, I was invited to join the board. And by the time we got to 2002, we had 12 members, and I'd paid for 5 of them. So I think I put my hand up and said, yes, I'd like to see if we could grow it from here. And we've managed to grow that now to an association that numbers around 900. So it's been a very interesting journey. Made a lot of lifelong friends along the way, and been taking part in very interesting discussions and seeing different trends come and go as well. It's been a very interesting journey.
And what sort of work do you do in the organization? What does ISPIM actually do for the innovation community?
So, as I say, we are a network, essentially, of innovation management researchers and practitioners, essentially. Our main focus is on getting people to, from different aspects of the innovation management community to communicate with each other, to connect with each other. We focus on conferences. We do currently 3 a year. One major one which takes place in Europe in June, or virtually this year, as is the case. And we've been doing other events outside of Europe, North America, Asia, Asia Pacific, smaller events. We also have a number of different special interest groups. So these basically look at innovation management hot topics, and they are relatively autonomous groups that sit under the ISPIM umbrella. So anything from sort of digital disruption and transformation through to values-based sustainable innovation, teaching and coaching innovation, living labs. We have a whole bunch of different topics that are covered, and some come and go, some stay on and are very active. We are also involved in a number of EU-funded projects, mainly as dissemination partners, and we are involved in publications. We have links to about 8 different journals at the moment, and have just been involved in a book process with De Gruyter, one of our main supporters. And so, yeah, there's a number of different aspects that we're involved in as a community.
Now, you said you've been part of the team for over 20 years. In your view, what's changed in the field of innovation and innovation management over that time frame?
Well, I think that at the beginning it was a question of how do you spell it, but the thing about it is that in terms of innovation, everybody gets involved in innovation in some kind of in some way or other. What I find is that it's one of the things we've been involved in recently is around the professionalizing it as turning it into a profession. How do you get recognized as being a professional innovation manager? So we've been involved with looking at standards, innovation management standards. We've been looking at things like certification, and seeing where that could lead to. Because, like I said, everybody is involved in innovating in some way or other. But it's almost second nature. And in fact, what we're finding in the crisis at the moment is that people are forced to innovate. You've got things like restaurants who are now doing delivery services so they can get food out to their to their customers, and finding different ways of being able to innovate. And I think that I think it's almost it's interesting how sometimes you'll get people saying, we don't do innovation, but actually they do. But you don't have things like, I don't know, Innovation Tuesday. Today we're innovating. We woke up this morning and today we're going to have a great day of innovating. That's not how it works. But what we find is that there's much more interest in finding out how you can innovate and what techniques you can have, and how do you manage. We're all about managing innovation. How do you actually manage the whole process of innovation? How do you create value? And that is something that involves a different mindset, I think. But actually, there's a lot of things that people do second nature, even though they don't necessarily think that they're innovating.
You mentioned that some companies now being forced to innovate because there's a crisis going on. I believe that's the topic of your upcoming conference as well, isn't it?
It is indeed, yes. I mean, we were due to have a conference in Berlin in June, and the topic there was around sustainability. We've pushed that forward to next year now. Obviously, with the crisis, we can no longer have a physical conference, so we're going virtual. And obviously, by going virtual and the fact that we've got this crisis happening now, we thought that the best way of doing this would be to look at how do we innovate in times of crisis, and to make it a positive message and not a negative one. There's been too much negativity around this, but and these are indeed tough times. We're not belittling that, but there are opportunities here as well, and maybe companies can change how they operate, and that will have a lasting effect on whichever future emerges out of this crisis as well. So I think that we're being forced to innovate, but we're also learning how, I think, to be a bit more responsible, and we're taking on new ideas I think we're taking on becoming much more flexible in the way that we work and the way in which we operate. And I think that's going to set us in good stead for the future. I think everything that we learn now is what we'll be able to take forward into the future as well. So what we're looking to do is have a positive spin, have people talk about, their experience, but then also how they see the future. How do they feel that this crisis is going to help them innovate in the future, and what are they doing now to that they can take into the future world as well?
What sort of stories have you heard from companies about how they're dealing with the crisis and actually using this as an opportunity to do some innovation that they weren't previously doing?
Well, you have to tune into our conference to hear that. We hear sort of various aspects. Like I say, anything from the sort of small businesses that are, out of necessity having to innovate, to a lot of the large companies that are turning their attention to being able to produce goods, masks, etc., for the the good of the nation, and to help with the health service and things like that. So I think that the sort of community spirit that's been generated by this, and the sense of responsibility, are the sort of main things that I see coming out of all of this crisis. And in that respect, people have been quite innovative in the approaches that they've taken. But I'm sure there'll be some really interesting stories that emerge from this, because people have been hit for six. They are completely although we can say that with what happened in China at the beginning, we should have been prepared. Actually, very few people were prepared, and they've had to kind of think on their feet very much, and because of that, they've been forced into innovating their way out of this crisis. And it'll be interesting to see what stories come out of this eventually as well.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there are many.
They do say that necessity is the mother of invention. And I think we've seen a lot of companies really been forced for the first time in a long time in some industries to fundamentally change the way they're working, whether it's the way that they're working with their staff, remote working, or whether it's the way that they're working with supply chains, or even wondering what exactly is their business and what exactly is the product that they're selling.
Sure. So I also find it interesting how you see things like, art galleries and museums, and even some destinations, putting stuff out there online as well. You can go and visit a museum now from the comfort of your couch. You don't necessarily have to go there, and sort of, using the technology that, we've had for, quite some time, but doing it so that people can explore. People are able to go and see some of real treasures in the world from your own living room. But it's not like watching Discovery Channel. It's you're in control to a certain extent. So I like the way some of these companies, some of these institutions have been very proactive about getting people through their virtual doors. And even sort of, we know that the travel industry, look at the events industry in particular, has been really hit very, very hard. And we're seeing now some countries, some destinations becoming a lot more proactive in terms of showing you from a virtual perspective what their country has to offer. And it might be in the future that we might not need to travel quite so much. We might be able to do a lot of this from our own home offices, or from our homes or our offices. We might not need to jump on planes quite so often. Of course, the bit that's missing in all of this is the human contact, which we need. And there are certain things that you have to see for yourself. You can't experience virtually, but it might actually in the future have us thinking a little bit more about what counts as necessary travel and what is kind of just a nice to have. And maybe we could help the planet a little bit more by not traveling quite so much.
Absolutely. Speaking of not traveling, if people want to find out more about your virtual conference that's coming up, what's the best place they can go to find out more?
So we're online at www.ispim-virtual.com.
Perfect. I'll make sure to get that link down in the description below. It's been wonderful speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking again with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and stay safe and good luck.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave me a comment about what you thought and what you'd like to see more about. If you want to take your creativity and innovation capabilities to the next level, then invest in yourself with the premium training only available at ideatovalue.com. These exclusive training modules have all been put together by me, Nick Skillicorn, and have been used by thousands of artists, innovation leaders, and CEOs to become better at understanding the source of their creativity and executing on their innovation ambitions. And there is no risk to you, as they're backed by our money-back guarantee. Now, don't forget to go out there and make your ideas a reality. See you again soon.